Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.
Greetings from the KYOS News Desk. We are joined once again this week by Merced City Council member, Mr. Josh Pedroso. And Josh, before you sat down, you said you felt like your high school girlfriend had just broken up with you again. 49ers took it to the chin on Super Bowl Sunday, and we lost to the Baltimore Ravens. So before we get to city business, tell me what your vibe is on that.
You know, I'm upset, obviously. I think it's starting to go away a little bit because people are starting to, not talk about it as much. But I tell you, I can't watch SportsCenter. I can't watch NFL Network. I can't watch any of that stuff because they're just replaying and rehashing the whole thing. But I will tell you this. It doesn't hurt. This one doesn't hurt as bad as when the Giants lost the World Series in 2002. Because when the Giants lost the World Series in 2002, that was heart-wrenching. I mean, that crushed me. But I think the Niners have the brighter future than anybody else. And I would, if I was a betting man, I'd say they're going to be back there. They're going to win the Super Bowl within the next 2 years.
The thing is the NFC West is getting strong. Seattle's tough. I think the St. Louis Rams are going to be tough. Arizona's kind of rebuilding a little bit right now, but they've got good talent down there. They got hit by their injury bug last year. So it's going to be a fist fight through the NFC West. You're going to be battle hardened for sure when you come out of that conference from now on.
And I looked at the Niners' schedule, or just who they're going to play. The toughest teams, or their road games, are St. Louis and Seattle. So other than that, I think
who are they playing next year? What division
Tennessee,
are they playing? Okay. So what's that? The AFC South?
Yeah, AFC South.
Atlanta.
And then that's Tennessee, Jacksonville, in London. And I can't remember the rest of them off the top. I think Houston. Houston will be tough.
Yeah, and did I hear a rumor that the Giants season starting the 23rd of this month already?
The Giants.
February 23rd?
Yeah, they're actually pitchers and catchers report to spring training next Tuesday.
Okay.
So spring training is underway. So that has helped ease the pain of the Niners, if you will.
Now, did you get a chance to look at the trophy yet, or has that come through town?
No, it hasn't come through town yet. I believe it comes next week.
Okay.
Or the week after. But
and it's going to be down at the Commerce Building at the Merced Fairgrounds?
Correct. It's only there from 5:30 to 7:30. So if you're going to go,
and from what I hear, they're from 5:30 to 7:30. They're very strict on their schedule.
Very
strict. Thing's picked up and out of there at 7:30.
Because they have a bunch of different places to go. So if you don't get to see it there, you can go to Atwater. You can go to, I think they're going to have it in Las Banas also.
Sure. And did you hear the Atwater is going to have Romo there?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the pitcher.
I hadn't heard that.
His aunt lives in Atwater.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's cool of him to come down there.
He's going to be there with the trophy in Atwater. Yep.
We got Doug Fister though.
Sergio Romo, is that his name?
Yeah, Sergio.
Yep. His aunt lives in Atwater. What a small town, huh?
It is.
Or small world, I should say.
Well, look at the Central Valley's done over the last during this athletic seasons.
Yep. Back to city business. The agenda process has changed.
Yeah, we just changed to make it easier and more transparent for the public and or city council members to put stuff on the agenda. It used to be that if there was a priority session or if there was a priority for the council, then it would take 4 of us to put it on. Well, now it's just saying it's going to take one person on the council to put it on, but the person who puts it on is really the one that has to do the homework behind it and the administrative report. And then if there's one person that wants to talk about it, then staff will look into it and do the legal analysis, the financial analysis, and everything, run it through the gamut, if you will. For the public, the best thing for the public is to talk to us, council members individually. It's very easy to get a hold of us and request having something on the agenda. If that doesn't work, if they can't get a hold of us, they are certainly more than welcome to come and speak at our city council meeting during oral communications and ask us, if this is something that we could look into, and then we'll take it and decide on whether or not we want to vote. But if somebody in the public asks to have something on the agenda, then it takes 2 votes of the council to go ahead and put it on there.
And they would literally just show up at the meeting and ask?
They would just show up at the meeting and ask, and if this is something, and if there's 2 votes on the council, then they'll be able to get it done.
And you just take it up right there on the spot?
Well, we can't take it up right there on the spot because if it's not agendized, there's a process, a public process. I think it has to be noticed.
So this goes on to a future agenda?
Correct. And then I think there's a time frame that we decided on that we'll put it on to make sure that, we're following the proper protocol.
Speaking of transparency, real quick, I don't know if you saw that controversy with the MCAG, Merced County Association of Governments, and their hiring of was it a president or who's calling us now?
Maybe that's the MCAG
no
president.
one's home.
Yeah.
What was the deal on that? There was an interim president, and then the interim was dropped without a vote of the. I mean, do you have?
I'm not really
about that?
sure the whole process of it because what the MCAG is, the Merced County Association of Governments, is.
But that's a very powerful entity, is it not?
Correct.
I mean, these people basically dispense Caltrans money. I mean, it's a very, very powerful organization. And the accusations that I've been reading about is its very lack of transparency, like you're talking about the Merced City Council.
And what I've read into it and what I've heard is the MCAG consists of the 5 supervisors and then a representative from the 6 cities in the county. Our
That are
representative
appointed, not elected.
that are appointed,
Not elected.
by the
Okay.
council.
Gotcha.
And so, but they're elected officials. So they're elected officials who are appointed by the governing body that they serve.
So
on.
you have to be an elected official in order to serve on the
Correct,
board?
but they also have a citizens advisory committee to where citizens get involved in that process.
So you're comfortable with that part of it?
I'm comfortable with that part of
Okay.
it because the people are already elected. Usually it's the mayors who serve on that board with the supervisors. What I've been told or what I've heard is that they agendized a meeting, but they have to give.
This guy's persistent. You want to see
He
who it
is.
is?
Sure.
Pick it up and say KYOS. 5-2. Go ahead. So we're talking about the MCAG.
Yeah, MCAG. And what they did is they put out a meeting, a special call for a meeting, a special closed session to approve the interim director or approve the person that they had hired to be director. Now, I'm not sure who the person is, who they hired. That hasn't information that's been given to us yet. But only 6 people were a part of that decision that could make it to that meeting. That's a quorum. So they have a majority, they can make that decision. Well, people are saying that process wasn't open enough. It's unfortunate because out of that position, which is a very powerful position, there were only 14 people that applied, as far as I know, statewide. And only 2 people were interviewed for the position. Now, I have some issues with that.
Right.
Because
is there any rationale for that?
They said that it just their resumes, their applications.
Now, can I ask you this, not knowing who they hired, was this individual that they ended up hiring and dropping the interim title from within the organization? Was she part of the MCAG organization prior to being named president?
She was.
Okay,
And it's not president, it's executive director. So
Okay.
she was.
So they hired in-house
They hired in-house
out of
to
14
replace
candidates, and out of the
Exactly.
14 that applied, they only interviewed
Interviewed
2.
2.
See, that doesn't smell right.
It doesn't.
That does
And-
not pass the smell test.
But I'm not sure if they went ahead and approved this person to be the executive director. I don't know why. And in fact, Johnny Mays, who's the mayor and serves on that board, said, I don't know why the interim was removed from her title, because as far as I know, she's been serving as interim director to take over from Jess Brown, who was there for, I believe, 9 years. Or
now,
maybe
did she
longer.
serve under Jess Brown?
She was his
So
assistant.
the presumption would be is this girl was kind of shepherded in as part of the
Exactly.
network. And,
Exactly.
yeah. See, that's not. We got to get away from that. I mean, even if she's the most qualified, even if she is the most or he's the most qualified, you have to make it a transparent process so that it doesn't look like it's. And we get accused of this all the time. And I've had Mark Payson deny it till he's blue in the face of the good old boys, where you keep everything in house and local and control. We got to get away from that, or Merced County is not going to grow.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing, when you look at some of this stuff, we have to, even if it's the best person. Now, I'm not going to take away the fact that if it's the best person, out of the 14, and you hire that person, then there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're saying that you're only going to interview 2 people out of 14 candidates, that sounds a little sketchy to me. But again, I wasn't on the interview committee. I wasn't a part of the hiring process. I don't know what they talked about, because when they talk about personnel issues, it's a closed session,
Right.
because of the sensitivity of the issue. But I don't know. I think
So
that
where,
they
do you know
could
where
have
we
done.
sit? Is she still the interim? Is she the permanent? I mean, where this gal or guy? I don't know why I'm referring. Is she a female?
Yes, female.
Okay, maybe that's why, because I must have read about it. Is she the confirmed director now, or is she still the interim?
That-
or I mean, where's that all at?
See, what I was under the impression that information would have been released publicly at their next meeting, and they meet the 3rd Thursday of every month.
Yeah.
So I thought that they were going to come back with that information on that day, because that's when they were scheduled to make the announcement. So I don't know if she has been appointed, if she hasn't been appointed. I think it's still up in the air. I don't think anybody knows. The fact is, though, MCAG is still, running under her interim. And so it's working. I mean, it's working, and they're giving out money. The Caltrans money, they've been, like you said, been very successful at getting and divvying out throughout the state. If you look at,
and I am in no way implying that this candidate is not qualified.
Oh, absolutely. No,
but
I understand.
the process has been very flawed, and whoever was responsible for that process didn't do the candidate any favors.
and that's the problem with it. It's just see, that's the thing. When I got elected to city council, and hopefully to continue it in the next term, is it's about transparency, because everybody thinks that, oh well, it's going to be done behind
That very
closed door.
word right there is why there's the growth in the Tea Party. And I know people might think the Tea Party is way out there sometimes, but the one thing I respect about the Tea Party is they insist on transparency. They show up and sit in the front row of these meetings to make sure that there's no shenanigans, and they shine a light on this very type of thing. And that's where they have value. No matter if you agree with their opinions or not, they are so concerned about this inside type of thing where people are handpicked and brought up through the system, and there's never any kind of new blood introduced, and it just regurgitates itself over and over again. And, like I said, this candidate sounds like, things are going well. I mean, I also heard that Caltrans is spending more money in Merced County than any other county in the state of California right
Correct.
now. Now, is she responsible for that? Kudos if you are. So, this is not certainly in any way an attack on her personally, but whoever was in charge of this process, knowing that there was 14 candidates, they chose to interview 2, and then they hired the one internally, looks terrible. Looks terrible. And they have to realize that.
No, and I agree with you. But the other thing too is, I believe that with some of and I understand what the Tea Party is doing by trying to make it more transparent and trying to make sure that government is, but I can also see some of the fear that the Tea Party likes to put out there, and some of the conspiracy theorists amongst the ranks.
The very people play into that.
Exactly.
If the people on that board would have done it, interviewed 10 out of 14,
You're right.
and then whittled it down to 5, and then, made the process look like there was some type of transparency there, it doesn't feed the lion.
No, you're
But when
right.
they do things like this, it gives fodder to people that are the conspiracy theorists, because this doesn't look good.
Oh, no,
it
you're
does
right.
not look good.
You're right, but I will tell you that, when we've done stuff and decision stuff, and we've been accused of, the same thing that you're saying, that we're not being transparent enough and not showing. Well, there are things that we know that we deal with at the city level that we can't tell the public because of the sensitivity issues in regards to legal battles and stuff like that. And so
That's
I understand.
why you have to trust who you vote for.
Absolutely.
Because I have to look at you, Josh Pedroso, and say, you're not telling me this because I don't need to know. Not because you've got some ulterior motive involved here, that your cousin's coming up and you want them to be you know what I mean?
Oh, no, and see, that's the thing. When we go back we have to do ethics training on all that stuff. And so if there's a hint of me benefiting or somebody from my family benefiting, I step aside. I won't even, get anywhere near it. And I'm overly cautious about that, because I wasn't elected to better myself or better, my family. It was about doing what's right for the community. And so that's where the transparency comes in, and that's what the ethical decision that that we have to make and say, hey, this is what it's about.
And they have to fight even the appearance
Absolutely.
of the lack of transparency.
And you're right.
I'm not. Again, it's hard. This is not done in the tone of accusations.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the facts are there was 14-2 to 1 that happened to be the underling of the one that just left, and that is what feeds the good old boy, quote unquote, moniker that Merced County really has a strong feeling for that. Ask AMR.
No.
The American Medical Response.
No, I agree 100%. But there's people that I think that will look at the AMR and we'll look at the rig thing, and people will say, argued about for rig saying, hey, we have been here for 6 years, all this other stuff, and then there was people who argued for AMR saying they were going to provide better service. Well, people were upset because of rigs didn't get in initially. But those are the same people who were saying, well, there's that good old boy network. So if we would have given it to AMR, then they would have said, oh, well, you dropped all these jobs, or if the county would have done it, you dropped all these jobs. Well, some people want their cake and eat it too, and they're just not getting the entire facts out.
I couldn't agree more.
So
and again, I would go back to being very conscious of the process, so that no one can make those accusations.
Absolutely.
And I think ultimately what ended up happening with the Board of Supervisors is they thought the process became so convoluted that they decided to start over. And they haven't really awarded that contract to either one of those companies yet. They've kicked the can down the road a year, but they're going to reopen the bidding process. This time they'll be more precise on what they're looking for. They'll have impartial auditors look at the contracts, give the points where points are necessary, add them up, and then hopefully award the contract to the best people for the job. And I hope it's Riggs. I mean, I want the local company to win, but I also want a fair game.
Absolutely.
And when you create an environment where the game doesn't look fair, then people start talking. And
Absolutely.
you give them ammunition to talk when you go from 14 applicants to 2 interviews to hiring the underling of the one that just left. That doesn't look good.
No, and I agree. And we had something similar to that as well here in Merced when we went to get our money for our grant or for our park, McNamara Park renovation project. Well, the staff really was pushing us to pick one company that helped them write the grant. So they get more money,
yep.
and then but the guys in Merced who are capable of doing the work don't get the jobs because staff had a better relationship. See, that's the stuff that we sat down and said, "Hey,
is that
this
what
isn't going to
ultimately
fly."
the case? Was that all? I didn't realize that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, staff had worked with them. Staff knew.
They helped them write the bid process. And all that
Yeah,
stuff?
they helped them write the the grant process for the grant to get this money for the McNamara Park project. They did it for free. Now because
they
were
thought
trying
they were
to get
going
business.
Exactly.
But the thing is, we looked at it and said, "Hey, this company who's local, they can benefit."
It's such a nice precedence too that
Yeah.
you can't come in and write the contract, help write the bid for free, and then expect to get the business if the contract's awarded to the city.
It's the fact that we need to put our people to work. So, you do good work, but our people, have the ability, they're capable of doing it. They may not be the lowest bidder, but all that we have to pick is the most qualified,
Absolutely.
and they were qualified.
And then I would also take that a step further and say if you are a local entity, there's even additional pressure on you because when you do award something like that to a local outfit versus someone that's out of the area that helped write the bid, then they were going to have their work scrutinized. And you've got to be at the top of your game. You've got to be able to reward the council for having faith in our local people.
And you have to trust the people who are doing it because we look at all these grant applications, we look at the interview process, we know what's going on. And so you have to trust that the company that is very capable of doing it. So it's a tough process, but it's a good one.
And just to shout some kudos out, and again, I consider myself as an independent, but I was actually, a couple of weeks you were in here and we were talking about Jerry Brown saying that the financial crisis was over, and I actually had a chance to listen to, I watched the Maddie report, and they had a guy from the GAO, the General Accounting Office, who I consider impartial. I mean, I remember when these guys were sitting in front of committees, I was watching them on C-SPAN, and they were just tearing, or the California Channel, or whatever it was, tearing into these committees about the lack of realistic accounting probabilities. But that cat came on the Maddie report and said, Brown's not BSing. I mean, this is pretty legit. And California has a super majority right now, and it sounds like things are going pretty well. And I'm about giving kudos where kudos are due. And I hope there's not a lot of smoke and mirrors going on right now. But, hey, kudos to the Democratic Party right now as far as I'm concerned. It sounds like they've got their act together, and they're kind of pointing us in the right direction.
Well, the thing about the Democratic Party is if they screw up this supermajority that they have, they're not going to be around for a while because they have to realize that this is, a rare opportunity. And Californians, especially in the Central Valley, even though there's more registered Democrats in the Central Valley than there are, or in Merced County, I know for a fact, than registered Republicans, people don't go by that very much when the state's not doing well. I think the state is finally starting to look, starting to peek through that, hole in the wall and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think it's going to benefit.
The only thing that I would like to see from the Democratic Party is that I would like for them to acknowledge that, and maybe they have, that our social welfare system is a little bit broken right now, and we've got to figure out how to stop making people dependent on the EFTs and the Section 8s and all that stuff like that. We've got to figure out a better program than that because, when you have an attractive program, it's going to attract people like that from magnets, and we need to get through that in the state of California somehow, some way.
And Governor Brown tried to do that last year in his last budget.
How so? Just cutting people off welfare?
Just cutting programs and saying, cutting the eligibility requirements and stuff. One of the things that I've, thought about, and it kind of goes back to, my first job as a teacher. If a kid fails, they have 5 or 6 different options to make up the class. It's kind of the same thing in some of the social welfare. If you have a certain amount of opportunities, you're going to take advantage of every single one of them. So we have to start saying, let's limit the amount of opportunities or limit the amount of chances and then really see what we can build out of that.
And is that happening now as we speak?
See, I don't know. At the state level, I don't know.
Well, you're pretty connected. I mean, the people above you and the people above them. I mean, you're in that line that, I mean,
it's something that
Adam Gray and Canella and I mean all the way up.
But it's something that they're dealing with. But with Adam and with Anthony Canella, they're working on some other issues, and they're not really 100% focused on that. They're focused on like what Adam did with the water and the water board. Anthony Canella right now is trying to get onto the environmental committee with Senator Michael Rubio to change the way that we're doing some CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, because it's destroying programs throughout the state. And that's, a Democrat who is saying, hey, we need to reform CEQA so we can
which is environmental regulations,
exactly,
which is supposed to be a Republican platform.
Very much so,
right.
and there's some people, environmentalists, who are very much against it. But that's stuff that if we can lower some of that,
well,
that's
Cannell's actually a
more money
Republican, right?
Cannell is a Republican, but he wants to get on there, and he's aligned himself with Michael Rubio.
I don't like to refer to Republican. He's a Central Valleyite.
He is a Central
Valleyite. And Adam
Valleyite.
Gray's a Central Valleyite, and we just got to have faith that they're fighting for our cause.
And those are some of our biggest causes.
Real quick, what was the deal with the water thing with Adam Gray? I wasn't really clear on that. I know he felt like we got kind of screwed on that deal.
There was an appointment on the water board or the water commission that was going to benefit the Bay Area as opposed to the Central Valley, and they appointed it on a recess appointment when people were gone for the holidays.
Brown did it?
See, I'm not 100% familiar with it.
You got Adam Gray's direct number, don't you?
I do.
Well, hand it to me. Let's call him.
Definitely put him on the spot.
Real quick, how'd your town meetings go?
Town hall meetings have gone really well. I think at the one in at Tenaya Middle School, we had about 65, 70 people showed up just to voice different concerns. A lot of the talk was about jobs, gang violence, at-risk youth, our population with at-risk youth. It went well. We weren't able to really – we were just there to listen. We didn't get anything. We weren't able to get anything done, but we were just there to listen, and hopefully we'll try and save some stuff.
Are those over now?
We have one more. It's February 26th.
Well, yeah, it's over in Hoover. Huh?
At Rivera Middle School.
Rivera, that's right, Rivera.
25th or 26th.
And then you're back in-house?
Then we're back in-house. We're back in-house on the 19th, actually. Our next city council meeting is the 19th, but our goal planning session, our priority session, where we are going to prioritize our budget, is the 22nd and the 23rd.
How's the budget looking, real quick?
Budget looks very good.
Good to hear.
Very good.
Good to hear. Now, is there anything you can do for your brethren over in Atwater? I mean, I'm hearing there's $6 million in the hole now.
I don't want to touch that. Yeah, that's they got a bunch of issues going on right now.
Yeah, the Tea Party's like flies on what over there. So.
I can imagine, because there is a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, anything else you need to get out, my friend?
That's it.
Okay, we can't say go 49ers anymore, but we can say go Giants, can't we?
212 days till the 49ers kick off their first game.
Yeah,
but
who they open up with?
They haven't said yet.
Yeah.
Just they got the schedule. But pitchers and catchers.
I don't know if this is going to depress you or not, but if you were looking to get one of those $80,000 seats over in the new stadium, they're sold out.
Bummer. I was saving my $18 a month checks from the city council for one of those.
Josh, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care.
Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.
Greetings from the KYOS News Desk. We are joined once again this week, although it is not in person. Sheriff Mark Pazin is calling from the Southern California area. And I guess, Mark, you're on your way down to help with the apprehension of Christopher Dorner?
Yeah, no, that's above my pay grade, Steve. But I am down here for the past couple of days at the California State Sheriff's Association.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Have their board of directors meeting for legislative agenda, the gun control issue, a number of other things. And we just happen to be in Riverside, we're being hosted by Sheriff Stan Smith down here. And coincidentally, we were just a few miles away from where that tragedy happened, in which this crazy loon of an ex-LA Police Department officer just went off hook and shot and killed some people. And then now he's on the run into what they're now thinking is San Bernardino County.
Yeah, I see here on the news service that the LAPD is locked down. All their police departments are being guarded. They're on tactical alert.
Yes. Well, what happened was you got an individual, this Christopher Dorner, large individual. He has the same training and maybe even a little bit more because of his naval status as a lieutenant. So he knows all the tactics. He knows all the ins and outs of law enforcement, and everybody is just very, very edgy. When this whole thing started to break down here in Riverside, it had caught everybody's attention. And then you juxtapose this Steve, into a issue that's going on with gun control. You have a person that was just absolutely, evidently decimated by the fact that he got fired from Los Angeles Police Department, trying to what he perceived as correcting a wrong. He was found to be at fault, or I should take that back. Not at fault, but he came up with an allegation that was not substantiated on his field training officer. That's how this whole thing started back in 2009.
Right. He got caught lying, more or less, right?
Yeah, he was trying to, I don't know. Obviously I'm not privy to the internal documents other than what we're reading about in the paper, but suffice it to say, he was found not to be telling the truth.
Right.
And did spiral downwards into this.
So what's the atmosphere like down there? Do you see a lot more police presence right now? Or is it?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah?
Yeah, very tense. Everybody, again, is on high alert. You have an individual that could be bluffing. His pickup was found in San Bernardino at the Big Bear. And in fact, I was with, all the sheriffs were down in Riverside County, and John McMahon, who's the sheriff of San Bernardino, was with us on Thursday morning. Then he had to cut and run and flew into where the incident was being done in San Bernardino. And then next thing you know, you see him on all the major networks having to basically oversee the operation. So it's very tense.
Sure. So in that environment, what are you? You're down there with the California Sheriff's Association to kind of set your policy on what's going on right now federally. Is that what you guys are trying to kind of get on the same page there, or what's going on with that?
Yeah. Ironically, we meet every couple months as a board, and we are now at the cusp of all this gun legislation. There was some very draconian legislation put forth here at the state level that just hit the radar screen yesterday, which would have been Thursday, because we're taking this on Friday morning, obviously. And so it got our attention. The Feinstein bill, we're looking at that. I doubt that we're going to embrace it at all. We'll probably take a neutral stance. We put together, for those persons that are always curious about the stance of myself and the California State Sheriff's Association in general, you need to go to our website. We put together what I think is a very clear and succinct document regarding gun control, which we don't believe we need. There's already enough laws on the books. And then you look at what happened over this past week, wherein you had a fired LAPD officer who obviously just snapped and was able to plan all these horrible killings in advance since 2009 and collect guns and shot and killed those two people in Irvine. In Irvine, I was been trying to get a hold of Dave Maggard, who was president of the Cal Chiefs, was my counterpart a few months ago, and he's just so busy trying to pull this investigation together that this Dorner became the suspect in a true whodunit. I mean, everybody was kind of surprised that you'd have a double homicide in Irvine, because it's very upscale, quiet community where the university is, and all of a sudden this Chris Dorner comes to the surface as a prime suspect because of a revenge killing.
Yeah, and my understanding is he's actually sent some manifestos to CNN, and I guess he received a commemorative coin from the police chief down there that he sent to that gray-haired guy on
Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Oh yeah, we're all over it. They're triangulating his path. When I was at the FBI Academy some years ago, Brad Garrett, who is the consultant and a contributor to a lot of the news stories, and also, interestingly enough, John Miller. You're going to see John Miller on TV. I was fortunate enough to meet with him a few times under the FBI National Academy, he was assistant director at the FBI. He was a correspondent. He got to meet Osama bin Laden some years ago and wrote a very interesting book that I read called The Cell. Anyway, they were analyzing this Christopher Dorner's movements, how dangerous he is, that he knows all the ins and outs of law enforcement and then some, and had, if not months, maybe even years to plan his revenge on those persons he thought did him wrong.
Yeah, my understanding is he actually got fired back in like '09, didn't he?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This whole thing started in 2008. Finally, he exhausted all his due process and appeals and was basically terminated, separated from the agency.
Yeah, this
Unfortunately, he was still obviously able to accumulate weapons. Evidently, he was still practicing quite a bit. And could you just, I just cringe at the thought of, first you have the two persons that were killed in Irvine, California last week. The female that was killed was the daughter of the captain from Los Angeles Police Department that actually defended Dorner during the appeals process. He went off hook anyway, killed the captain's, I think it was Quan's daughter, because he being Dorner, felt that he, the captain, didn't do enough to protect his job.
Yep, that's what I've heard too. And
Basically stalked the daughter of the captain from LAPD, and then also collateral damage was the boyfriend shot and killed him.
Yeah, he's this guy's not of sound mind right now. I mean, needless to say.
Oh no, not even close.
What do you think the chances of him being taken alive are? I mean, doesn't he kind of strike you as the guy that's going to try to go out in a blaze of glory, if you will?
Yes, that's what the conventional wisdom is, that he's going to have a shootout, take out as many persons as he can. But here's the deal. Quite frankly, nobody really knows where he's at, because when the car or the pickup was found, there was a time gap. So did he backtrack and have already a plan, scheme, and design for an exit strategy? Is he trying to mislead law enforcement? Did he commandeer another vehicle or have a vehicle up over there that he is now driving around in absolute anonymity? The phones, there's been no contact via cell phone other than what was left or sent to Anderson Cooper via the mail. So, as you're traveling around Southern California, you just don't know where this guy is lurking at.
And are the meetings that you're conducting right now at the Sheriff's Association, are you guys on a law enforcement site? Are you guys at a hotel, or where are you guys talking at? Because I would. Go ahead.
We're down in Riverside at a hotel,
okay,
to accommodate all of us, and there's a notable law enforcement presence down over here just to kind of guard against him zipping around this Dorner guy and doing something very provocative. So everybody's a little antsy, that's for sure.
Right. So have you actually conducted the meetings yet with the Sheriff's Association, or are those still...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll be wrapping it up a little bit. I just took a few minutes to call in and, do this show, because I think it's very important for people to understand that the California State Sheriff's Association is not in favor, endorsing, embracing any further gun control laws. And I know persons out there want, letters written to the vice president. They want a stance regarding these executive orders. And as you well know, Steve, we promised not to talk about it, but it's still a hot issue. And basically, we can enforce laws on the books. These executive orders are nothing. They're toothless. It's a paper tiger. All they are is some suggestions that the federal government wants to do.
Right. Would you differentiate gun control laws from like a background check, or is that all the same thing? Does the Sheriff's Association support gun show background checks or private party transfer background checks. Is there anything as far as the administrative side that the Sheriff's Association would warm to, or are they all the same thing?
We're putting a final verbiage on background checks, which
but is that a separate?
I don't see a problem with that.
Is that so that's a separate issue from gun control?
Yes.
Okay.
What they're trying to do right now is ban certain weapons. They're trying to put such a fine detail on what can be owned, the number of rounds in a clip. They want it down to I think 7 rounds versus 10 or 15 rounds in some of these guns. And I'm just here to tell you, for those persons that listen to the show, the issue is not the gun, it's the person holding the gun. What we have actually done is, or I guess the president in a kind of a ancillary way, has really put more weapons on the streets because persons got a high anxiety level, believing that all guns were going to be banned or not be able to be sold. And remember, we talked about that last week.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we were trying to calm the hysteria. I don't think we actually classified it as hysteria, but just step back, take a deep breath. You're not confiscating people's guns. Just relax a little bit. Cooler heads will ultimately prevail.
Exactly. So we're putting a final verbiage to the statewide position, and then we may send that position. I will let the president, Keith Rowe, decide what he wants to do to the vice president and the president of the United States, and let them digest that.
Sure.
Because again, we're just getting really worked into a fever on this, and they need not.
Do you find a wide range of opinions within your organization as sheriffs? I mean, are you all kind of generally on the same page, or is there that same divergence that we find in the public?
I can honestly tell you this: we have persons very passionate on both sides.
Yeah.
I gotta understand the North State, Shasta, Siskiyou, El Dorado counties are very pro-gun. You have some in the Bay Area, Marin, obviously San Francisco, Santa Clara, that are a little more cognizant of current gun laws. So, and then the rest of us are kind of in the middle. And I hate to use that term, in the middle, but the bottom line is there are enough gun laws on the books. We need to enforce those.
Right, and I wouldn't hesitate to use the term "in the middle" because I believe that the answer is often found in the middle somewhere through the process of compromise.
You get these other pundits that, well, if you're in the middle of the road, you're going to get ran over. You know how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the same moniker in talk radio. You have to be extreme in order to survive, and
yeah.
I'm trying to fight that.
I know.
Because I think everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah, we had it was a very healthy dialogue, but our association did come together with a unified voice in that we don't believe in any more gun legislation. We are not going to go out and start confiscating weapons. We're not going to be a arm of the federal law enforcement to do this. And, it is your constitutional right to bear arms. So there you have it. Yeah,
it's a very interesting discussion. We've had some other guests on this morning who do listen to you and I on the weekends, and they brought up some interesting points. One of the things that I think that is still a gray area for me is what is a legitimate cause for self-defense, and it ranges from the obvious of home, and somebody comes into your home, your ability to defend yourself, versus a literal foreign invasion from another country coming ashore in San Francisco and you wanting to go to your closet and shoulder your weapon because you're the militia, according to the Second Amendment, and defend ourselves against an invasion from Japan or something like that. And that's where I'm at. I like to think that having to arm the citizens in order to defend a foreign invasion or a public usurpation of power where the government gets so out of control that we have to arm ourselves and move on Washington, D.C., I'm refusing to allow myself to think in those terms. And some people think that's a naive stance and they point to history. I mean, they look at parallels of, communist Russia and Nazi Germany about how there's parallels of restricting firearms, making people register firearms so the government knows where to go to confiscate them and things like that. And that's the area that I'm still kind of unsettled with is what is a legitimate definition of self-defense?
Well, just like everything else, if you forget your history, you're doomed to repeat it. You got to understand that those are very divergent
points of view.
Points of view. I would submit to you that is very, if ever, going to happen.
And I respond the same way, but I get a return look. When I respond that way, they look back at me and kind of shake their head. It's not in condescension, but almost like in naivety. Like, don't be naive.
Yeah.
This is the same people that thought like you back in these instances, and look where that got them. And I just can't let that enter my mind. I just can't. If it ever comes to the point where we have to arm ourselves to take back a tyrannical government here in the United States, I'll probably kill myself anyway because the dream's over. The United States of America will cease to exist.
Exactly.
So that's what I struggle with.
We've gone through this. I mean, look at the Civil War. If you were going to go check on history, I mean, America was almost divided over a slavery issue, and look what happened over there. We came together. We are one United States of America. With that is that when you have the Second Amendment, you're also blessed with the First Amendment. First Amendment allows you the freedom of speech. And so if you have those thoughts, viewpoints, fine. If you want to share them, good for you. And this goes on with the rest of the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. We got a kick-ass Constitution. We got a kick-ass country. We just got to quit killing ourselves from within. I mean, I think it's Abraham Lincoln said one time, and I'm paraphrasing, that if we don't have to worry about a foreign power invading us, that if we are ever to cease to exist, it's going to come from within. We're going to kill ourselves, basically. And that was during the time of the Civil War, So
yeah.
Scary, Mark. You keep
buddy. We just got to stay with it. The California State Sheriff's Association, there is a line in the sand regarding these draconian proposals of legislation. I mean, next week, if the more conservative persons in California start to read some of this next week as it starts to unfold. In fact, I think I went online to look at the San Francisco Chronicle. I think it had a fairly in-depth and interesting set of proposal by some of these Democratic legislators. So I just don't see it getting any better. And here's what confounds me. We have gas prices going up because of this new blend for the summer. Even though the stock market is having a positive trajectory, there's still a lot of other things that are going on that really affect the quality of life. I just would hate to see that we get mesmerized and paralyzed over one issue.
Well, the thing is like we said last week, step back, take a deep breath, have a civil conversation about it, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We always do.
Exactly.
All right, Mr. Mark, you going to be back in town next week?
Yep. Oh, yeah, we're all over it.
All right, man. Keep your head down.
Okay.
Are you in uniform? Are you in uniform today?
No.
Okay. Are you driving a marked vehicle?
No.
All right. So I'm feeling a little bit better about things then.
Yeah. Everything will be fine. I could get through LA traffic. That's probably the most dangerous part.
Amen, brother. Hey, Mark, thank you very much for taking the time to call in. I really appreciate it. All right. We'll see you next week.
Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.